Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for January 7th, 2024. This is the first security news update for the year. Welcome to 2024. Hope it's a good year for you. In the security and privacy alerts department, apparently you can purchase a Twitter Gold account. That's the kind of account that they give to celebrities like, oh yeah, Elon Musk. Um, uh, and apparently those accounts are available on the dark web for anywhere from $20 to $2,000 a pop. Now, here's why that's attractive. At least one enterprising, shall we say, hacker did that and then put up a cryptocurrency scam on tweets from that person's account. While the account was only compromised for 20 minutes, the hacker stole almost $700,000. So if you do a little arithmetic there, you can see that for a, let's say, worst case $2,000 investment, you can make 700 grand. Well, that's $698,000 in 20 minutes. That's about 2 million bucks an hour. More than I make, that's for sure. In the software and hardware to check out department, um, and this really sucks, sorry. Broadcom is trying really, really hard to figure out ways to pay for the $60 billion it spent on VMware. So the first thing they did last week was phase out or kill, there really isn't any phasing, perpetual licenses. This week they killed their partner program, with the exception of partners that sell at least $50,000 of VMware products a month, $550,000 a year. Then apparently you get December off. And so if you are a VMware customer and you use a smaller partner, I guess now is the time to look for another partner because they're not going to be selling VMware anymore, apparently, in the next couple of months because that's not going to be an option. Broadcom says they have a their own partner program, which they say is award winning, but they don't say what awards it win. Um, but only people will only be invited to that, and those are those people who sell a lot of VMware products. So, um, another reason to move to another hypervisor. VMware certainly has a lot of features. It's a great product, but there are other competing products, both open source and licensed commercial products, that do perfectly adequately for what 99% of the businesses need. So, if you're FedEx or you're, I don't know, Apple, maybe you need all the features in VMware, but for most companies, you don't need that. Next, in the legal department, a federal court ruled that Terraform Labs cryptocurrency is a security, which to me is kind of obvious, right? You buy it because you are hoping that you're going to make money. You don't buy it because it looks shiny on your wall or something. I don't know. Um, the challenge, of course, is that not all courts have agreed with that. So eventually, the folks in the black robes up in Washington, D.C., will have to decide this. And they have already said that they're not really very good at computers. So you got a bunch of people who are novices in the subject area who are going to be making fairly monumental decisions that affect a lot of folks. Next in the legal department, PornHub, which is the largest online porn operator, is locking out customers in Montana and North Carolina over age verification laws. They've locked out about 11 million people. But guess what? Who would have guessed this? Um, at the same time, they blocked folks in those states. The leading searches in those states are leading the searches for finding VPNs, which is obviously the easy way around those kind of blocks. So it's not going to hurt them financially, but it's going to make a point. AI continues to be in the news and will continue to be in the news for the foreseeable future. This time, the New York Times is suing OpenAI over copyright infringement They're saying that that OpenAI, by providing very detailed summaries of New York Times articles, and in fact even spitting out the articles themselves, is violating the New York Times copyright, and they're asking for billions of dollars in reparations, and they're also asking the court to order OpenAI to destroy the models that contain the New York Times data. Now, this is not going to wind up in court. It's just not going to happen that way, in part because neither company wants to run the risk of losing in court. So this will be settled quietly in the dark, and OpenAI will pay the Times a lot of money, I am sure, and the suit will go away, which is kind of unfortunate because it'd be nice to have a precedent. The challenge for people who are using AI, they don't really have a lot of precedents to figure out, well, what's okay and what's not okay. So that's a real challenge for them. Next, what do we got? In breaches, another day, another breach, no big deal there. Orbit Chain said they lost $86 million. Orbit Chain is a back-end cross-chain application. The attack happened on New Year's Eve, but they say not to worry because this was a sophisticated state-sponsored attack, likely. So that obviously makes you feel a lot better. Orbit is owned by Ozzy's, I think that's how you pronounce it, which also owns Belt Finance and ClaySwap, both of which have also already been hacked. So, I guess the model of the crypto industry is move fast, lose other people's money, then get sued, then rinse and repeat. That seems to be the model of the industry. So if you're doing anything other than your lunch money, beware, that you could lose it all. Next, and this is somewhat embarrassing, doesn't have much risk, but somewhat embarrassing. Google-owned security firm Mandiant gets its Twitter account hacked. They did eventually get it back. It took them about 6 hours, probably because they're Mandiant and they probably know people. Because if it was you wouldn't get it back in 6 hours. That's not going to happen. Twitter fired most of their staff, as everybody knows, after Elon bought the firm because they were hemorrhaging money, and they got to figure out how to stop that. But they've been having a lot of problems securing not only your and my accounts, but the high profile accounts. That of course is pretty embarrassing. But I don't know what Mandiant did wrong, but there's probably a lot of people at Mandiant who have access to the account. So I can understand that. All it takes is one person doing the wrong thing, and all of a sudden the account is no longer yours. Um, uh, in the daily blog post, Operation, and again, I don't know how you pronounce this, Hichi, is I don't usually talk much about these police takedowns because usually they're just a drop in the ocean. But this one was a little different than that. It involved law enforcement from 34 countries, which obviously is a lot. But the big thing that is interesting is the results. They arrested 3,500 people. That's a lot of people. That ought to get people's attention, right? If 3,500 people disappear overnight because they got arrested, and they'll get charged and they'll go through the court system, and depending on what country they're in, the court system may or may not be terribly friendly to them. But they also recovered about $300 million, a goodly chunk of that, most of the majority of that in cash, and some of it in crypto. So that is gonna put a dent in somebody's wallet. 300 million is not going to end the crypto business, but it certainly is going to be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. Next, we're seeing here in Colorado and California also the global opt-out rules of the state privacy laws are coming into effect. In the case of Colorado, it comes into effect on July 1st. In Colorado, which is what that post was about, there is a state mandated approved opt-out mechanism. So you can't use some other flimsy mechanism that you've created that is hard for people to use, you've got to use one of the approved mechanisms. Right now, there is only one approved mechanism, which is the global opt-out flag that's been around forever. Um, this is the data broker's kryptonite, right? If I opt out, which I will come July 1st, from targeted advertising, they can't sell, well, they can sell you data, they just can't use it for targeted advertising, which means that the ads that the website gets, they will get bupkis, to quote my daughter, in terms of revenue from it, because it might be an ad for diapers, or I don't use diapers, thank goodness, or who knows what it is, but it's certainly not targeted to anything they know about me. So if you either buy or sell data, this is important. You need to figure out which states are implementing that, because yes, they will come after the data brokers, but they're also going to come after you. So, and a follow on to that, AI needs your data and needs it badly. I talked about the New York Times lawsuit. When they can't buy it, or then they can't, well, I guess the first option is probably to try to steal it. Excuse me. They don't call it stealing, but the first option is to try to steal it. And if that doesn't work, they try to buy it. And if that doesn't work, they try to, which is what Google is doing, try to obfuscate the issues in court, saying, well, but it's our business model. What do you mean we can't do it? Well, if you have a business model which breaks the law, you can probably put off the eventuality for a while, but at some point in time, there is a day of reckoning, and you get to pay a large bill. So, for what it's worth, if you buy or sell data, this is a topic you need to pay a lot of attention to. Next, I think I missed one here. Did I miss one? Nope, apparently didn't. Okay. The security news bites for this week. Even though most companies have not migrated to Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7 is out, and Wi-Fi 7 has got a lot of features, including potentially 3 times the throughput of Wi-Fi 5 or 6, which is a lot of improvement. So that's useful. And if you haven't migrated to Wi-Fi 6, you're probably just going to skip that and move to Wi-Fi 7. We have one case here of a business that shut down, and after it shut down, it still got breached. So just because you're not operating anymore doesn't mean you can't be breached, which is really unnerving, because you clearly don't have any revenue at that point since you shut it down. Next, the U.S. court system runs a online document service called Pacer. It's a horrible, horrible service, just really creaky, antique. I don't know how old it is, but it looks like it's like from the 1980s. I'm sure it's probably newer than that. But they put the Epstein docs on it, and of course, it just disappeared into a pile of dust. So the few people who got the docs before the system crashed, they went off and hosted the docs themselves. Of course, that cut Pacer out of the revenue loop, which I'm sure they didn't like. But under the Constitution, the U.S. federal government can't copyright any of its information. So I don't think there's much of an action there. But nonetheless, people got very creative there. Next, India tried to twist Apple's arm to downgrade the government hacking that the Indian government was doing. They even tried a disinformation campaign. I don't think it worked with anybody. I think it was extremely transparent what they were doing. But it just goes to show, well, first of all, I think, in my opinion, it kind of proves that India was hacking their own people. Because if it was somebody else, they certainly wouldn't have downgraded it. It just points to the fact that governments will do whatever they can to try to collect data for whatever nefarious purposes they have. And that also means that you, as a person, if you care about what you're collecting, what you have, and that's important to you for whatever reason, then it becomes very important to you to take extraordinary measures to protect it, and that's hard. And we can help you with it if you fall in that category. But It's only for people who are high risk for a variety of different reasons. And lastly, 23andMe, which is facing a bucket of lawsuits over losing half of their customers' data, they have an interesting legal strategy. Their strategy is to go off and blame their customers, which to some extent is fair. I mean, I get what they're saying, right? This is not a breach of their systems. What it was is that people reuse passwords, which everybody does, and I'm guessing they didn't have multi-factor authentication required, and they didn't have any mechanism to see that some user. So supposedly there were 14,000 accounts compromised, and they downloaded the DNA information of 7 million people. So you kind of look at the arithmetic there, that's a lot of downloads that's going on, and the fact that they didn't detect that as an unusual pattern tells me that their security systems leave something to be desired. And obviously, if they were forcing the implementation of multi-factor authentication, the particular attack would not have worked. So we'll see where the lawsuit goes, but I say that's a kind of a Hail Mary kind of approach, and we'll see what happens over time. With that, that's all we have for this week. If you have any questions, need any help, have anything that we can do to assist you, please contact us. But otherwise, until next time, stay safe.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.